The meeting
Yep.
and take it away.
I'm Dave Graber, president of ANRL Library, and I'm here talking to Dave Foote. It's 19th of January 2015, and Dave's from California, and we're going to talk to him about his experiences in nudism and his experience with the library. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning, Dave. Glad to be here in Cypress Cove and at the library once again.
How long have you been involved in nudism?
Well, I had my first social nudist experiences when I was in my late teens in college in California. And then I really graduated kind of into the big time during I believe it was the summer of 1966, when I was probably between my sophomore and junior years in college. I had occasion to go to France, and I visited what at that time was a very famous nudist ground on the Riviera called the Ile de Levant. And so I spent a week there in August. It was very crowded, it was very wonderful, and I kind of have considered myself a nudist ever since that time.
Well, so you've had a nice long life of nudism.
Indeed I have. Since my late teens, I have considered myself a nudist. I've been coming here to Cypress Cove in the library since roughly the mid-1980s.
Very nice. How many different nudist organizations have you belonged to over the course of time?
Well, over the course of the years, I have been a member and was a member for a long time of a well-known nudist club in Los Gatos, California, called Lupin Lodge. That was my longest club affiliation. I've also been a member at various times of the old ASA, American Sunbathing Association, now ANRL. I've been a member of the Naturist Society. I joined that probably, I think, about the first year that organization came into being. And I am currently a member of the INF, the International Naturist Federation. I do a decent amount of international travel, and I find that having the INF credential with me enables me to gain entry to nudist parks in Europe particularly.
Oh, very good. Can you briefly talk a little bit about one of your most interesting experiences as a nudist?
Wow. Well, there have been many. I have had the occasion of attending Naturist Society gatherings at places like Lupin Lodge, which probably were the most enjoyable and diverse, large gatherings of nudists in one place. Many different kinds of activities, arts and crafts and games and things like that, attended by large crowds of people. I also enjoy nude camping. I've done some nude hiking. It's really hard to narrow it down because I think there have been so many wonderful nudist experiences over a long period of time.
Would you recommend any particular one for somebody new coming into a nudist?
Very good question. And it's hard to say. I think I would recommend taking it perhaps in the company of a friend who might be a nudist or something like that. You don't have to jump right in right off the bat. Some people take a little while to become acclimated to nudism. I think it's important for those of us who are already nudists to be welcoming and gracious and friendly when we encounter someone who is trying it for the first time.
It's very true. Talking about the library, you said you've been here since 1980, I think?
Roughly, I would say the middle part of the 1980s, 84, 85, something like that. And of course, it's changed quite a bit in those years.
How do you think the library has changed from when you came to start with, and maybe their philosophy then compared to philosophy now?
That's another good question. I remember the library, of course, had a much smaller collection when I first started coming here. It was not as neatly organized as it appears looking around the library rooms right now. I think that there was, perhaps because it was a newer organization at that time, there were perhaps more questions about purpose and identity. It was like people were aware that the materials available should be preserved, that there was historical value to it, but it's like they weren't exactly sure where to draw the lines. And I think as the library has progressed over the years, there has occurred more definiteness about the kinds of things that should be kept and added to the collections and that sort of thing. I've seen lots of changes in policy over the years. I can remember there was a time when library materials, old VHS things were being loaned out, and then I can remember that policy being changed and it became somewhat more restrictive. Now it's been expanded a bit more now. Again, I'm glad to see that policy has come back. Anyway, there have been a lot of changes, a lot of things added, which I'm very much in favor of. I'm particularly pleased to have returned this time, which has been my first visit in about 5 years, to see a number of important new additions, including the new patron computer.
I'm glad you like what you see. Many of our volunteers, we have some very hard-working volunteers, but most of them have a very short knowledge of the people in the past. And could you say something about the library people you knew over the years?
Absolutely. I have known a fair number of staffers and club officers and other members of the library that go back a pretty long time. I think I first heard something about the establishment of ANRL from a woman who was a long time ago involved in the management and ownership at Lupin Lodge, and her name was Ethel Plant. Ethel, I believe she was here at the library, though I was never here with her, but she told me of its existence, and upon the occasion of, I believe it was a business-related trip that I made to Florida, I decided to visit Cypress Cove and the library. So Ethel kind of put the first spark in my mind about the existence of ANRL. People that I can remember on the staff from those years would be people like Dot Purcell, Eileen Farrell, Layla Latimer, Shirley Heaton, and then probably the person that I remember most fondly from those years as just a really wonderful person, very helpful, very cheerful, very knowledgeable, and that man was Richard Carica.
Excuse me.
Richard did a lot of things for the library over a period of many years, but I most remember him for his work collecting, arranging, and cataloging the video holdings of the library. And he was always very helpful and had that kind of curiosity and drive where he was always eager to try and find new material and check it out himself and make it available for patrons here in the library. And more recently, of course, because she was also active in the library for many years, was a predecessor of yours, Helen Fisher. I certainly remember Helen. I remember her husband. And yes, recall him as well. And I think that kind of covers the key people that I can remember from those days. The Hadleys, of course. I mean, I can remember both Dean and the present fellow Ted. Yeah.
The Hadleys have been extremely supportive of the library. As you know, this building here, the Cove built for us, we do pay rent on it, but they take care of the maintenance and all that, so they're very good for us.
Indeed.
How frequently do you usually get to Florida?
Well, that has changed because I've been coming here for such a long time, and at various stages of my professional and personal life, there's been a lot of variability. There have been times when I would visit the library 2 or 3 times a year for several years running. There have been times when I would only get to the library more infrequently. For example, my present visit now is the first time that I've been in the library for 5 years. Prior to that 5-year gap, I doubt that there was a gap of more than a couple of years between visits. And whenever I have been at Cypress Cove, I always visit the library. I also make it a point each year to stay abreast of the library's meeting calendar and try to get to annual meetings whenever I can. And I would say that over the course of the years, I've probably attended maybe 6 to 8, let's call it 8 annual meetings in that entire time span.
So you've had a lot of exposure and that sort of thing. Here at Cypress Cove, which we are very lucky to be located at, how do you think Cypress Cove compares to some of the other resorts in California?
Cypress Cove is, without any question, right at the top of the list of nudist resorts that I've ever been to in the world. It's right at the top. It's one of my favorite places to come. There are a few others in that league, shall we say. My old home club, where I'm no longer a member, but where I had been a member for many years, Lupin Lodge, is exceptionally beautiful and a wonderful place to visit as well. And there are a couple of others in California that come to mind that are, again, kind of in the same league as Cypress Cove. They would be Glen Eden in Southern California, near Corona, and another favorite of mine, Laguna del Sol is the current name, located near Sacramento, California. For a time it was called Rawhide Ranch, a very beautiful place. I've been to almost all of the main nudist venues in California over the years, including all of the landed parks, I believe. And in California, we're also, of course, very fortunate to have many beautiful nude beaches. Baker's Beach in San Francisco, where I had the good fortune to live across the street from it when I was a kid, before it was a nudist beach, is one of my favorites. Also, Red, White, and Blue down in the Santa Cruz area, Red Rock Beach in Marin County. There are any number of Black's Beach in Southern California, of course.
What do you think is the biggest challenges for the library as we're getting more into the electronic age and we're working very hard at documenting everything we have, digitizing it, and what would you envision there?
Well, clearly information technologies have and are continuing to change a lot. I think it's important for the library to maintain all of its paper holdings, of which, of course, it has an awful lot. But I think we need to keep ourselves on the kind of on the edge, on the pointy end of the spear, as we used to say in the military, of making sure that as content becomes available on places like the internet, that we here have ways of identifying those sources and then somehow keeping track of it.
Are you referring to our content or other people's content?
Well, I'm talking about content that's held by others or being made available by others, but which I feel come within the purview of the library, and materials other than paper, because that's how we kind of started talking about this. Materials, say, that are available to us through electronic means that we somehow could be, we have to stay abreast of.
Do you know of any such things right now?
Well, I think there are, I'm sure there are, in recent years, there has been the development of a number of other non-traditional or newer nudist organizations. You could say things like, taking ANRL for an example, and ANRL, of course, has a website. I guess what I'm suggesting is that there may be things that they make available on their website that we might want to link up with our collection in some way. And I think clearly this is kind of a new way of thinking for libraries. And I guess what I'm saying is we need to stay abreast of the things that are going on. We need to be asking ourselves questions about what kinds of material, what kinds of content is there, and how can we incorporate it when we decide to into our collection here, so that it can be available in perpetuity for nudist researchers.
I guess I'd like to ask one question of you, is if you run across some of these things, would you let Bob or myself or both of us be informed on it?
Yes.
And that sort of leads into the next question, is how do you think you could help the library?
Well, fortunately, Bob Proctor and I have become very well acquainted on this particular trip, and we've had a lot of really good discussions about the library, and I have already volunteered to him to help him in his pursuits, and he certainly has many here for the library. So I'm going to be a kind of a right-hand man, or I'd like to be a right-hand man to Bob in his efforts. I certainly have some particular interest areas of my own that I would like to explore. They might be things like developing partnerships with other research libraries, places like universities and colleges and the like, perhaps to some degree partnerships with other nudist organizations. And I think it's important, and I think I could contribute to helping, and this is an area Bob has also been involved in, contributing to the presence of our library in the social media, things like Facebook as an example, because that's the wave of the future as far as groups and organizations and associations making themselves better known to other users of social media, so that younger people that are just becoming interested in nudism or just finding out about nudism have a way to realize that there is an American Nudist Research Library.
That's very true. One problem with Facebook and that is, how do you control it so it goes in the direction you want and doesn't get off into the other areas that can be not quite so good?
Yes, indeed. And I think the answer is moderation. The fact that websites and social media sites have roles that can be played by moderators who we, as the sponsoring organization, would appoint, And it would be a task of such individuals. This is something, again, that I could do. Bob basically set up our Facebook page here previously. But I think that it's important that the moderators follow specific policies that keep the users of the site on the right track.
Right. I guess in closing, do you have any other things you'd like to share with us today?
Well, I guess it might be appropriate to say in closing that just to reaffirm the fact that what we have here is, in my estimation, a unique resource in the world on a subject that is not widely known, through society at large. And it's extremely I think the work that is done here, the collection that has been assembled here is truly unique in all the world, and I think it's incumbent upon those of us who are involved with the library to keep it, to keep what we have, to make it better, and to keep it moving forward so that more people are aware of it and can use it.
And that's part of goal that we have here, is to try to bring in other organizations that don't know about us and to get out there and find out what material they have. We've done research, and we believe we are the largest in the world for a nudist library.
Wonderful.
So I want to thank you very much for today.
My pleasure, Dave. Glad to be here.
Very enjoyable talking to you.
Hope I can get back again sometime soon.
I hope so too. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Bye.
Bye.